1. It was really the big story that I'll always remember from my serving days. It was about 5 years ago. Nothing like it has happened to me or near me before or since. I was a server at a popular mid-range and slightly upscale restaurant. The job was great, mostly for the hours accommodating my school schedule, the tips, and the couple of great friends I made there. Always dealt with a handful of assholes, but I typically always just let it go and moved on. On the night in question, the hostess sat a couple in my section, about mid-30s, man and woman. The guy seemed to be a business type, and the woman was a total knockout blonde Pam Anderson type. I went up and did my normal introductory spiel, but the man held up his hand to silence me, and without looking at me said, "I'll have a whiskey on the rocks. She'll have Chardonnay." I paused, looked at them for a second and said, "Great, I'll get started on those. In the meantime, enjoy some complimentary And once again he snapped at me. "We'll call you when we're ready to order." I leave, resigning myself to the fact that this dude is already unhappy for some reason, and will likely take it out on me. So I keep close tabs on them, ensuring I don't mess anything up. When it came time to order, he wanted our supreme burger, and he specified that he wanted no mustard as he was allergic to mustard seed. That was no problem. Except he didn't simply state he had this allergy, he said, "Think you can manage not to fuck that up?" I said I would make sure the kitchen knew about his allergy. When I brought out their appetizers, he shoved his empty whiskey glass into my chest and stomach area hard, and said, "Another." I was stunned. As I left, the woman, presumably his wife, called out, "Don't forget about the mustard seed." Yeah, fine. I was done with them. The burger came out fine, no mustard. Before he allowed me to leave the table, he stuck his arm out in my path, pulled the burger apart to make sure there was no mustard on it. The check comes, and he makes a comment about the burger being sloppy. No shit, Sherlock. I watched you tear it apart in front of me. And of course he tipped $5 on a $100 bill. I was thankful to see him go. I prayed to God I would never see his face again. It's a month later. He comes in and gets seated in my section again. Only he's with a different woman, a brunette. I tried to get my friend to cover the table, but she couldn't for one reason or another. So I just grit my teeth and went in. Again he interrupted my "How are you doing tonight?" with a "Whiskey on the rocks and a Cosmo" wave of his hand. When they ordered, he wanted our chef's soup of the day, a spicy lentil soup. I immediately remembered and said, "Oh sir, that soup actually has ingredients that..." And he snapped so suddenly that I flinched. "Just give me what I ordered. What's wrong with you?" And, he topped it off with, "retard." At this point, the woman looks upset at his behavior. But I didn't want to be responsible for this guy suing the restaurant just because the paste in the soup had ground mustard seed in it. So I plowed on, "But it has mustard seed in it. Last time you were here, both you and your wife reminded me to..." All hell broke loose. His face turned red and he looked like he would throw his glass at me. The brunette jumped up screaming, "I shouldn't be surprised. I regret letting you back into my life. Tell that slut I hope you two are happy together." And just storms out. The guy sits there for a second, then turns to me. And I really truly thought he would hit me. At the time, a 21-year-old rather petite female. I turned as gracefully as I could and walked into another section of the restaurant, and hoped he didn't follow me. Few minutes pass by and I see he's gone. Stiffed as on the drinks. That sucked. But I had no remorse. I floated through the rest of my shift with a smile, knowing that this man was really just a bag of shit, and that his life probably just crumbled in front of his eyes. Why this dude had it out for me, I have no idea. Why he kept interrupting, no idea. Why he assumed I was stupid, no idea. But the look of horror on his face when shit hit the fan was worth it. I'll remember it forever. 2. I worked at a higher-end chain place, where at night I averaged $20 to $50 in tips a table. But day was a different story. During the day, we had a $10 deal that included a salad and an entree, all of which were fast to make. The deal was meant to cater to the hospital staff across the street who had 1-hour lunch breaks, most of whom tipped $3 to $5 for getting them out in 30 minutes. I had just been promoted from hostess, but had served before, so I was quickly upgraded to the max number of tables, 4. We had to do a ton of side work throughout our shifts, make our own salads, constantly fill our coveted unlimited bread, make our own soups, prepare our own desserts, and run all of our food. Because of this, most servers could only handle 3 tables. 4-table sections were reserved for exceptionally good servers. I was one of 2 servers running the lunch shift, and already had 4 tables, 2 of whom were extremely difficult. Extra lemons, extra ranch, well-done steak waiting to be done in 5 minutes, all of which were asked for at different times. When the host approached me saying my mom's friends, hospital workers, specifically asked to sit in my section, my room was full, so they needed to sit in a different room, but because I knew them, sort of, I agreed to take them, even though the other server only had 2 tables. Big mistake! They were of course nice, but extremely specific and demanding about what they wanted, while on a time crunch, and I was in way over my head. The other server justifiably didn't want to help, because she thought it was unfair that I got that table. I busted my ass getting them everything they needed, including 4 specialty strawberry, raspberry, peach and mango lemonades that the bartender was too busy to make, and miraculously got them out in time to return from break. Mind you, the host had mentioned that they were out of my room, and that I was full, but took them anyway, so they knew how busy I was. One of the women was close with my mom, had been to our house multiple times, and thanked me profusely for my excellent service, and they all congratulated me on my promotion, saying I deserved it. After cashing out their 4 split checks, I wished them well and sent them some bread with them to take to my mom. At this point I had cashed out my original 4 tables in my actual room and been set 3 new ones, so I didn't return for a bit to collect their books to close out their tabs. By the time I was able to return, they were long gone, and I was excited for a decent tip at a lunch table. They left me nothing, not $1 from 4 women whom I ran around like crazy for, shouldn't even have taken, but did because they worked with my mom and I knew them personally. I was completely floored. I went home upset, racking my mind about what I could have possibly done wrong to deserve being stiffed by them. I wasn't going to say anything, but my mom brought up that her friends came to eat in my section and raved about me to her. I burst into tears and told her the whole story, and she was not happy. I begged her not to say anything, but she's a mama bear, and came home from work the next day with $50 for me. She said the women were super embarrassed and all thought the others had tipped, even though they cashed out separately, and all felt horrible. To this day, I don't know if my mom even brought it up, or just gave me money and told me it was from them, but either way I appreciated it so much. To this day, she's still my best guest. 3. This happened around this time some years ago. I worked at a chain upscale restaurant that was known for its ambience. Our key feature was a fireplace in each dining room. This made us super popular during the winter months, where customers would specifically ask the hostess to sit as close to the fireplace as possible. It was a particularly chilly winter day, and as you can imagine, everyone is asking to sit close to the fireplace. We had a party come in and request to be sat near a fireplace. They were. Everything was going fine until the grandpa says it's a little too hot and asks us to turn the fireplace off. Right off the bat, I knew we couldn't. The fireplace is the star of the show, and all our other guests were more than comfortable. I tell him that we can turn the heat down and suggest to move his seat, so he was sitting right in front of the fireplace. He refuses to move and insists that I turn the fireplace off. At this point, we should probably play a drinking game. Take a shot every time I say fireplace. I go grab our floor manager, and it goes like this. I apologize about the inconvenience, but we just can't turn the fireplace off.
That's unacceptable. This place is burning hot. I can't enjoy my meal.
We could move your seat from right in front of the fireplace.
That's too much of a hassle. Just turn the darn fireplace off.
Unfortunately, we can't, but I can.
If you can't, then I will.
Sir, we could move you further away from the fireplace, or we can move your party to the bar, where there wouldn't be a fireplace. It's a bar, but it also has a couple of regular tables where the party would fit perfectly.
That's an inconvenience to my family.
You get the picture. They kept going in circles. Eventually his family did cut in and expressed how they wanted to stay near the fireplace, with it on. To compromise, he moved around the table a little further away from the fireplace. My manager got them appetizers with a nice bottle of red wine for the inconvenience, and turned down the heat. Throughout the meal, the grandpa kept complaining on how the fireplace was too hot. I honestly couldn't do anything but turn the heat lower and lower. It got to the point where half the dining room was complaining it was too cold. Even Grandpa's family was now putting their coats on. Yet, Grandpa kept complaining about how the dining room was a furnace. I would have worried about the man's health if his family wasn't acting like it was no biggie. This became such an issue that I said fuck it and turned off the fireplace. By now the whole dining room was upset with Grandpa, and I guess Grandpa could feel their evil stares. All of a sudden I hear sirens and see the flashing lights of an ambulance and a fire truck. Everyone turns into a panic, wondering what's going on. EMTs are now rushing to my section and towards Grandpa. I was half worried to death. Yet Grandpa looks fine, and everyone at the table looks annoyed. Grandpa gets taken away. I think the daughter pays the bill but doesn't tip. I still hope that nothing bad actually happened to the guy. All my other tables must have been aware of what went down, or maybe everyone else was in a chipper mood, because I averaged 40% that night. 4. I was working in this middle-class restaurant as a bartender. The setup was one guy behind the bar making the drinks for the 3 waitresses, and helping out with serving when there is time. The phone was behind the bar, so I was also responsible for managing reservations, as well as taking takeout orders and checking with the cooks how long it would take until the customer can pick it up. They usually give their order, I ask the cooks and tell the customer the time. Worked fine all the time. But then this night happened. It was a decent night, not too much, but still no time to get bored. In comes this guy in his 40s, I guess, and approaches me behind the bar to ask for his takeout pizzas he ordered an hour ago. Having never heard of this, I asked everyone if they answered the phone, and I didn't notice. Nobody had. We had a few calls for takeout that night, and I'm starting to believe I messed up. The guy is already pissed because he was told it would take an hour while takeouts are usually in 30 minutes. And now his food hasn't even been started to be made. So the cooks, one of them is the owner, more to it later, make his pizzas as fast as they can, and the guy leaves 15 minutes later with his pizzas and a discount. Still pissed off, of course. Next free minute I get, I enter the kitchen, because I am sure I will at least get my head washed by the owner, if not worse, and he is pissed as well. But I'm still trying to find out what happened. Did I ever ask them how long that order would take? Are they sure no one else answered the phone? Thank God the owner was a decent person and believed me when I said that I have no idea what happened. I would never just tell a customer a time without talking to the kitchen. And even if I had, I would stand by my errors. I messed up before, and that might have saved my ass here because I never try to play down my mistakes or try to make excuses. I mess up, I deal with it. I had worked a few other places with and for the owner, so he knew me pretty well. So we just let it go as a mystery, although he told me other people would get fired for messing up and then lying. While it is still messing with me, I'm glad the owner let it slip and tried to finish my shift. About half an hour after Pizza Guy left, the phone rings again. I answer and a lady asks for the owner. He talks to her a few minutes in the back and then comes back laughing and hands me the phone. The lady wanted to apologize to me too after she told the owner I had nothing to do with this mess. Apparently Pizza Guy was a bit too ashamed to call himself, and tell us that his wife called the little pizza joint down in the town, but he went to our restaurant on the top of the hill. They only noticed when the pizza joint called them to ask when they would pick up their order. Looks like the husband and wife never mentioned the names of the places they called and went to. We all mess up sometimes, and I'm just glad it wasn't me this time, and they actually had the decency to clarify this. could have saved someone's job. 5. I've worked at this small restaurant for a little under a year, and have rarely made less than 20% on any check. I'm not saying I'm the perfect server because nobody can be, but today I had an interesting customer say to my face 3 times in a row that I am the worst server and most awful server she's ever seen. For backstory, her and her husband come in and order their drinks that I bring out in a timely fashion. As I bring out their drinks, I get sat at 10 top right next to their table that they clearly see I'm dealing with after I take her and her husband's order. I put their order in right after I get done talking to my new table and taking their drink orders. I'd say not even 7 minutes because I had to explain some things to the new table because they are out-of-town people just visiting who have a lot of questions about the restaurant, etc. So I knew from when I first saw them that the woman meant trouble from the get-go. They say to never read a book by its cover, but this book had the title "I Am Entitled" written all over it. I get their food out to them probably 15 minutes later because we just got hit with the rush that they came in with. No problems with the food that I was told either when I asked them. I followed up asking, how was everything tasting? And no problems told to me then either. If the servers are busy dealing with food, we have helpers that get refills and such out to people, so they had refills the entire time. At this point I know they are fine, and I had my 10 top as well as 3 other tables to deal with that just got sat. Next thing I know, one of my helpers walks up to me saying that my table, her table number, wants to talk to me and they do not look and sound happy. Me being me knows where this is going and I say I got this. I walk out of the kitchen and she's standing there looking pissed. I walk up to her as she's standing right next to my 10 top and ask, "Is there a problem, ma'am?" And she then says, "Yes, you are by far the worst server I've ever had. You are an awful server." Yada yada yada. I keep my polite smile and ask if she would like to talk to my manager. I stay as straight-faced and calm as I can, and I see that this is just making her more pissed. For you newbies out there, this is the best way to absolve any conflict and direct it towards your manager, who can fix issues for you and possibly still get a tip afterward. As I turn to get my manager, I make eye contact with the parents of the 10 top, and they look just as confused as I do. I was also trying to hold back my laughter because killing them with kindness works 110% of the time, and it really grinds their gears. Afterward, my manager asks me what I did, and I told him everything that I could remember, and he told me that she said that I was not attentive enough to her and her husband, going as far to say that another server had to get us boxes. That other server didn't have any tables because they were about to leave, and they decided to stay and help out for the rush. We both just chuckle about the whole thing, and I don't think he took anything off their meal. The best part about the whole ordeal was that her trying to downplay me to make herself look big made every other table I had tip me a solid 25% or more. Lesson to learn is to keep it cool and never overreact to someone who just wants free food. I'm just glad that I got their table and not one of the newer servers who wouldn't know how to react to such people. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates number 23. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, it is Saturday upon us once again. With any luck, if all has gone according to plan, I'll be spending this Saturday putting up curtain rails and curtains and blinds and whatnot. I did the first couple of windows the other day just so the house didn't look empty. Bad things can happen if your windows aren't covered. Not a bad neighborhood, but it's one of those things. One of those things you don't really want to risk. So I was out today and looked in a few places. I don't order everything online. I know you're listening to me talk, you think I did. But no, I actually went out today, ventured out, and I got quite a good deal in some sunglasses, actually. As there was a local shop, it's called Burton's, it's a men's clothing shop, it's closing down, unfortunately, which is quite sad because it's been there as long as I remember, really. And I looked at the clothing, and unfortunately, the one or two things I saw clothing-wise, I thought, oh, that looks quite nice. They only had in like a medium, which would not fit me. It would be much too tight on me. I'd need at least a large, preferably an XL or a double XL if I want it a little baggy. I'm hoping to get down to just a large or an XL for baggy. Working on it, getting there. Kind of. One step at a time. Moving on. But anyway, I did get quite a good deal on some sunglasses in there because they'd knocked them down from £12 to £2 each. So I got 3 different pairs. So I won't have to buy sunglasses for many years to come. Excellent. Anyway, after I left there, I headed up to the various shops that sell blinds. Usually little knick-knack shops, all sorts of like ornaments and lamps and various things, and they also do blinds. So I got my blinds out of one of them, and I wasn't really paying attention to the prices. I looked at the price of the blinds. I thought, okay, that's fine. There's only usually like £1 or £2 of a difference between most of these places anyway, and they all do similar products. And I thought to myself, well, I also need the poles, for mounting the curtains on. The curtains with the loops that go through them. And so I looked, and I found they had them as well. They weren't the prettiest ones; they're quite plain looking, but okay, they'll do. One for the kitchen, one from the bathroom. Got different colours: silver for the bathroom, kind of a gold for the kitchen, which will go nice with the curtains I've picked out. And because I wasn't paying much attention to the prices, so I took it up to the till, and the guy tells me £32. I'm thinking, oh, that actually sounds quite good, excellent. So I asked them if they take card. They say they don't, but luckily I had enough money just in my wallet, so I gave them the £32, and then the older fella, who I'm assuming it's a father and son operation. The older fella stacks everything, the 3 items, in a pile and puts tape around them. I don't know the brand, but let's call it sellotape around them to keep them secure for me so I can carry them. And that was, and I'm about to lift it. Then he says something to the son, and then and he gets a calculator and starts adding things up, and apparently it should have actually come to £50. So I got a little angry with them because I didn't like the inconvenience, and I just said, ugh, keep them here, I'll go get more money. And I did, and then I calmed down by the time I came back. Uneventful, but that was my day. Okay, so with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.